What's going on, family? It's your man, Michael Jenkins, and we are back with another episode of All In Podcast. And today is a special day, right? For me, this day is special because this is the 10th episode. This is the 10th episode. I'm going to clap it up for myself, clap it up. I kind of spoke about this, or no, I did speak about this in my first episode. I talked about starting this podcast, but I didn't get past episode 4. And so I don't know. To me, 10 is a great milestone, 10, 20, 25, 50, how people celebrate, 75 and 100 different things like that. But the 10th episode is big for me and I'm really enjoying it. How did a fly get in here and why? Maybe y'all can't see that, but yes, we are back. And most importantly though, happy Men's Mental Health Month. We know that June is Men's Health Month. And, of course, every year we see buzz concerning it. Should I use the word buzz? Yeah, maybe. I mean, it don't really matter, but we see a lot of information, a lot of conversation around it, and it's very important. And so, in connection with that today, what I want to talk about is mental renovation and mental maintenance, right? And so, when it comes to men's mental health or just mental health in general for a lot of people, but this is for men. So men's mental health, a lot of times we as men, we tend to wait until things are going completely wrong. Things are going haywire. We're losing our mind. We're stressed out. We're depressed. We're going to the doctor. Uh, we're having signs of improper health and things like that. And so, I think for us, I think a very important thing is that we do daily upkeep, daily cleaning, and daily renovation to our minds, that we be mindful of not only the things that we take in, but what we actually believe. What are the things that we're living by? What are the things that we're telling ourselves? What are the things that we are repeating, right? What are the patterns that we are following? What do we think is healthy, but is actually not healthy? What do we think is unhealthy, but is actually healthy, right? For example, venting or expressing ourselves. I know for a lot of men, right? And I can say for me, myself too, for a long time, we focus so much on the logical that we think something as simple as venting or expressing ourselves in a different way other than frustration or anger, we think that it's like, a woman thing, or we think that it's not manly, or we think that it's a waste of time, or we think that there should be no space held for a man who wants to vent or have a conversation or talk about certain things. But I will say one thing that I have learned from having a brother that I can trust in my life, right, is that there's so much to being able to vent and express yourself and talk about how you feel, right? For me, like many other men, I think a lot goes on in my mind, and I work through a lot of different things in my mind and things in my heart. And I know a lot of men, we tend to kind of stuff things away, but I know for me personally, I work through those things through my mind mentally, just going over them and really assessing. And one thing that I have come to find is that as a man, when you take the time to speak about those things, to vent, to just really express how you feel, what you thought about, what you went through, not only do you give yourself a greater understanding of how you feel, you give yourself more language, but you can also it's also a way of releasing that stress in a healthy way when you talk about these things. We as men feel like, and I know I was talking about that as an example, but even something as simple as that, we think that holding something and not letting it out makes us a stronger man or more manly because we don't want to express ourselves or vent or talk about the thing. When in reality, that's not true. It's just something that we believe is good for us, but it's not really good for us because when you think about it, the more we stuff down, the angrier we are, the more frustrated, the more stressed, the more annoyed we are. We get depressed by certain things, right? There are certain things that bother us easily because we store so much pain and so much anger, so much frustration, so much disappointment. We push it all down and we allow it to stay stored to the point of when it gets to the brink, we just kind of blow up or we get frustrated or we yell. Um, a lot of men have different ways of expressing their anger, whether it's yelling, whether it's being violent, whether it's being antagonistic, whether it's just going crazy, however that might come out. But we need to find ways to really work on our mental, not just when we feel ourselves under pressure, when we feel stressed, or we feel depressed, or we feel annoyed. We need to constantly be working through different emotions and different thoughts. Why am I feeling this way? Where is this thought coming from? Why am I thinking about these things? Why do I believe this about me? Why can't I get away from this definition? Or why can't I get away from these things that people have said about me? I know they're not true, but I believe them. Why do I believe them so deeply? Why does this thing that shouldn't bother me so much? Why does it seem like this man has freedom and I don't have freedom in certain areas of my life? But it's because you've allowed uh, um, certain norms to hold you back and constrain you and make you think that you're less of a man if you operate in this way, if you do this, if you say that. If I can even think towards my past, because when I was younger, therapy wasn't really a thing like that, especially in the Black community. It just wasn't something that we focused on, but sometimes I have. Well, you know what? I don't, because I think it's just a matter of really thinking about it at moments. I know a lot of men, and especially Black men, we really don't want to go to therapy. We don't want to talk about our issues. We don't want to bring up things. Some of us deal with certain things in our heart that really hold us back from being a better man and being the man that we're called to be, being the man that God wants us to be, being the man that God called us to be in this lifetime, being a better husband, being a better brother, a father, all of these different things. There are some things in your life that need to be addressed. And if they are not addressed, you cannot be better. You can't be better for yourself. You can't be better for your wife. You can't be better for your kids. You can't be better for your friends. You can't show up for people the way you need to in a greater capacity. You can't really show up for yourself in a way that you need to, in the capacity that you need to, if you aren't willing. And I talked about that in episode 3. Be willing. You really have to be willing to do the work, because if you are not willing to do the work, then you just won't advance. You won't grow. You won't go the distance. You won't go as far as you really need to mentally and emotionally. And man, let me tell you something. As a Black young man that has done the work, is continuously still doing the work, that faces trials and tribulations and struggles, but also victories and gaining wins in life, mentally, physically, emotionally, all of those things. It's a different life. Yes, it's hard, because there are some realities that, man, it's really hard to face these things. It's really hard to see that I'm this type of person. It's really hard to see that I have these traits. It's really hard to figure out where these things have come from. But yet, this is how I act. This is how I speak. This is how I treat people. But if you can find it in yourself to really dig deep, and I always say this, if you don't have the strength, if you don't have the power, call on God and ask Him to help you dig deep and go to the place that you need to go to, so that you can do the work that you need to do. Because this work will not do itself. You have to be a willing participant and allow yourself to take that first step, whether it's therapy, whether it's talking to a friend, whether it's talking to somebody that you can trust. I highly suggest, like I always say, therapy. I highly suggest a trained professional. These are not only people that will be safe, that you can build a relationship with, but these are professionals that they are trained and taught to work with you through issues and work with you through life and things like that. And a lot of times, man, we want to, mission accomplished, check the thing off the box. But therapy is something that can last you your whole life, because you're ever lowering, you're ever growing, you're ever living, you're always learning new things and making new mistakes and learning things about yourself. You're learning deep rooted traumas and things that has bothered you for years, things that are just connected to your nervous system, the way you react, the things that you think about, so many things that tie together who you are right now. You'll be addressing with people in therapy, things that you didn't even see, things you won't see coming, things that you might be surprised by once you really find it out. And so, therapy is something really beautiful that can really help us as men. So, um, that's very important that we do that. A big thing that I want us to remember, and I'm gonna get into something that's a bit transparent for me, is that we have to remember, right, that our thoughts, they are not facts. The things you think, the things that might guilt you and shame you at moments in your mind and your heart, it doesn't mean that it's true. Just because you think it and it's replaying in your mind and that's all you can think about and you believe it, it doesn't mean it's true. I could believe that Wendy's doesn't have a 4 for $4, but does it mean that they don't have one? No. I can believe that. I can think it over and over again, but it's not going to change the fact that they actually have a 4 for $4. They're always going to have it, whether I believe or not. As long as they choose to have it in the store, they're always going to have it, right? So we need to, one thing about renovating our minds and doing maintenance on our minds, we have to always be in a place where we question ourselves, right? Where a lot of times there are certain thoughts that are in our mind, things that are in our heart, but we never really question those things. Like I said, where is this coming from? Why do I feel like this? Why? I hope I was speaking in this mic because I'm a little far from it. Why do I feel like this? Why? Why do every time I go around my mother or my father or my spouse or my child, why do I feel these feelings like, I'm not good enough, or I'm not worth anything, or I'm incompetent, or I'll never live up to this measure or this pressure that I'm dealing with, or whatever, how I'm feeling, however it may look to you or feel to you, you have to start really questioning those things. And that's something that I always did that really helps me, right? I like to question certain things because I'm an intellectual. I like to think about where did it come from? Why is it affecting me this way? Why do I believe it? Why does it make me feel the way that it makes me feel, right? The different patterns in your life, not just one moment, but moment after moment after moment. Sooner or later, you'll see patterns in your life, something that keeps happening, thoughts that keep coming, things that are recurrent, right? And you can grow to a place of learning to reframe your mind, but it's going to take work, right? Because a lot of times when we're dealing with things that we're feeling, oftentimes we can tell ourselves something over and over again, but our main focus is to try to get away from the feeling and to try to hurry up and flip the switch. But an important factor is that we have to allow ourselves to feel feelings. Oftentimes we feel something, we want to think about something else and hurry up and push us out of that feeling. That's why you might be catching up to what I'm kind of saying right now. That's why we have distractions. That's why we're always on our phone. That's why we're always going out. That's why we're always at work, always finding something to do, because it distracts us from these feelings. And I know somebody right now is going to be feeling this and they're going to be like, man, subconsciously or low key, I know I do that, but I ain't ready to face those feelings. Sooner or later, you have to face those things because you can run and run and run and run. But sooner or later, you'll be tired. You'll be exhausted. You'll just be done. You have to address it sooner or later, especially if you want kids, especially if you want a wife, especially if you want to start a family. You don't want to drag that trauma down. Lord have mercy. This flies, I think it's a little baby moth. Yeah, you don't want to drag all of those issues and bring them into your life and have it weigh down your future wife or your future kids, right? Because some of us have been down that road of dealing with those things that have affected us so deeply that we remember what it was like living with a father who was abusive or angry, all of these different type of things. But a lot of times we see that we just didn't know what they went through. We don't know their story. Like my own father had his set of issues. But when I got to know his story, when I got to know what happened with his father in his life, it kind of changed my perspective on things. I'm like, man, like there were some things that you went through, Pops, like, man, that's crazy. And you know what? Seeing him from a perspective of a son being a young man growing up, it's just like you're angry because it's like I got like, all right, Pops, why couldn't you do this? Why couldn't you do that? Like what's up with this? Like why we couldn't connect here? And oftentimes those things make you angry and frustrated. But I was just really grateful that I have my father. Like I really have my father in my life. And while he's not perfect, one thing I commend him for these days is really trying and growing in ways and challenging his own perspective, even when it doesn't feel right. Shout out to you, Pops, if you're watching, if you ever watch this. Yeah, yeah, that's a really good thing that I love about my father. So yeah, let's keep going. So like I always do, I kind of basically went over everything that I was going to say anyway. But I think a big thing for us men too is stop giving into the guilt. I talked about something that I call the doghouse mentality about, when we upset women, even if we are in the right, we kind of put ourselves in a doghouse of feeling like we're terrible because we know that we aren't supposed to disappoint women or upset women or things like that. Don't put yourself in your own doghouse, right? And so today, what I want to do, I want to go over. I want to go over. Crap. I want to go. Let me move this mic over. I want to go over some things, right? I want to put into practice right here, right now, some of the things that I have. Oh, there go that bug. Dang, what is that? I want to put into practice some of the things that we're talking about on the podcast. And so right now we're about to put this into practice right now. So here we go. So I said I was going to be transparent. And so me being transparent, one thing that I used to struggle with a lot, right? And even sometimes it comes up on me is the thought of being a good God, man, this bug is everywhere. Just a featured guest on the podcast. Golly, he just hit my face. And for the audio listeners, the bug just hit me in my face, so that's why I'm kind of making a big deal about it. This thing is all over the place. But okay, back on track. So let me talk about something that I kind of deal with from time to time, right? For some reason, sometimes I can have the thought of like, oh man, you're not a good man, you're not a good guy, right? But there was something behind that, right? But again, I never really challenged those thoughts. And even when I did challenge it, it was like I was facing this roadblock of challenge, so I couldn't really work through it, right? So let's just say, right, I'm thinking about that. So oftentimes, the struggle or my issue, right? So, okay, my struggle usually is sometimes that I think that, this thought or this idea that, hey, I'm not a good man. I'm not a good guy. Wait, I'm scribbling. I'm not a good guy, right? So this can be whatever for you, right? This can be whatever for you, right? Whatever your issue is, right? But we're going to work through that. And now, mind you, I'm not licensed or anything. I don't have any degrees, but while I am a coach, we are working through this. So just know that this is just something to help you if you're scared to go to therapy or you're just trying to find somewhere to start and work through. This is somewhere you can really start, and this will be good for you, right? Okay, so one thing that sometimes I can struggle with is I'm not a good man, not a good guy, not as much as I used to, but sometimes this thought can kind of take over my mind, right? And so I have to think, why do I feel like this right now? Like, what is making me feel like I'm not a good man, I'm not a good guy? Like, where is this coming from, right? And if I can think about it multiple times, or maybe this one time that happened, if you think about it one time, you can think about this one time that links it to other things, or if you can think in one sitting of multiple things, then you can think of what the issue is. So one of my biggest issues can be, let's say, okay, I've disappointed somebody, right? I've disappointed someone. So I'm not a good man because, I'm not a good guy. I disappointed someone. I've let somebody down. Let's just say I've let a friend down, right? I've let a friend down. Uh, Another one. I've made another one. I've made my um let's just say I've made my girlfriend upset, right? I made my girlfriend upset, even though I don't have a girlfriend. But let's just say, this, this I'm pretty sure this has happened to me in my past, right? I've disappointed someone. I let a friend down. I've made my girlfriend upset. I didn't handle a situation properly. Right? So my struggle and the idea of what I'm struggling with is I'm not a good man. I'm not a good guy. Why? I've disappointed someone. I've let a friend down. I've made my girlfriend upset. I didn't handle a situation properly. So now all of these feelings are weighing down on me, making me feel as though I'm not a good man. I'm not a good guy because the sum total of these things are who I am, right? These are just mistakes. These are just, mess ups that I've dealt with, right? And so why does this bother me so much that I've disappointed someone, that I let a friend down, I've made my girlfriend upset, I didn't handle a situation properly? So, one thing that I learned is that I hated. I used to hate when people were mad at me, right? So I hated when people are mad at me. Also, something else I learned more recently, this is one of the biggest things, is that when I realized, like, why do I let my biggest issue was that I would let one thing outweigh all the good I have done, or all, the good things about me. And I was trying to figure out why. And God revealed it to me maybe about a few months ago. But this was a conclusion that was so hard for me to get to. And the reason was because when I was younger, my parents, and, especially being younger, and my mother being a parent in the house by herself, like I could never, I don't want to say get off the hook, but anytime I did something wrong, it was capitalized. I could do 10 things right and one thing wrong, and that thing was capitalized. And it was like this other stuff never mattered. So the wrong always outdid the right, no matter how much right I did. And so, that's something else that I will write down, right? So my struggle is thinking that I'm not a good man, I'm not a good guy, right? And because I've disappointed someone, I've let a friend down, I've made my girlfriend upset, I didn't handle a situation properly, right? And so the conclusion I'm drawing is like, why do I feel this way? Why is it so heavy? Why? What does this come from, right? A lot of times you can think about your childhood, what happened in your childhood between you and your mother, you and your father, or a grandmother, or uncle, or a friend, or whatever the people used to be around, whatever the case may be, right? A lot of the times I say it comes from, your parents, right? And so, when you think about it, when I thought about it, I was like, okay, I hate when people are mad at me. But I had a people pleasing way. So I had to notice. And sooner or later, I got fed up. Like, why do I allow myself to people please? Oh, I hate when people are mad at me. I don't just dislike it. I hate when people are mad at me. Why? Because when I was a kid, my parents were always mad at me for the smallest things. And anytime I did something wrong, the wrong outweighed what was right. So now all all of my identity going throughout my life felt like that bad, that heavy, wrong thing will always outweigh the good thing. No matter how good I can be, no matter how much I can do, no matter how, that doesn't matter. If there's one thing wrong, that outweighs everything. And so I had to come to terms with that. And God showed me, like, Mike, listen, you will make mistakes sometimes. And of course, we know it's about consistency of character. That's something we definitely going to talk about, character. But consistency of character. You've made a mistake, maybe here, maybe there, but this is not something that you continuously do. And also, I was thinking, like, man, sometimes, God, you might have to deal with the consequences of your actions, right? And I remember one time asking, God for mercy and just grace for some situation, and I was just thinking, like, there is none like that. I don't have any, like, I it's just over. I just messed up, and I remember on my way back home in the car, I started crying. I was watching 2019 Philip Anthony Mitchell. He was saying something. I can't remember, but I remember the Lord telling me in the car, like, you don't have to get punished for every little thing. I'm showing you grace. I'm showing you mercy. And in that moment, I just started bawling, crying, because I thought, like, anytime I mess up, I have to feel the effect of every little thing. It's not to say I don't have to face consequences when I mess up or have conversations or deal with repercussions. But sometimes there are things that you might say, Lord, deliver me from this. Help me with this thing. And there are some consequences that may come with a situation or whatever the case may be. But there are times where the Lord will show you grace and mercy and allow you time to fix it and get it right. And in that moment, I realized, like, wow, like, God, thank you for your grace and your mercy in this situation. And so this is a way that you can work through your issues and what you might have in your mind. And you can go deeper and deeper, and you see the things that, what they're connected to. But don't allow this to be something that drives you to be mad at people around you. It happened. They made mistakes just the same way you'll make mistakes. You might not understand it. You might be frustrated, but just know that this is about you working through your issues, learning about yourself, learning about how to grow and become a better man and do the things that you really want to do. And a big part of that is becoming a better man and taking time to do that mental renovation, taking time to do that mental maintenance, and not just doing it when things go wrong, but allow yourself to work through things every single time, every single day. Now, I'm not saying overload your mind and go crazy with problems and issues and try to read every little single thing. Why my boss say that? Why he said it like this? Why did my mother do that? Why did she do it like this? Why did my son? Don't drive yourself crazy. But when it's time to really work through these issues, allow yourself to work through them and be patient with yourself. Don't shame yourself. Don't guilt yourself. Allow yourself to grow, work through things, and just be a better man day by day. Because a lot of times that's where we wear that guilt and shame, thinking that we could just make things happen in just 2 seconds or a day. And it takes time. So we have to allow ourselves to take time and work through things and grow through things. And it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Right? It's going to be okay. So listen, fellas, this is by far not easy. And I could have went a little deeper into this right now, but I'm probably going to do another video talking about some other things, but also building some things for you guys to really work through issues and see things for the way they are. How long we been going? Yeah, okay, so that's good. Yeah, fellas, so don't be afraid. We really have to get out of survival mode and just living, and we need to get to a place where, we're thriving. We clean up that clutter in our mind, and we really walk in truth. And man, we can get better, fellas. We can get better, but we have to be willing to do the work. I know it feels heavy, but fear allows you to think something is harder or it'll be worse than it actually is. Don't allow fear to weigh you down and make you think that it's impossible. Don't allow the feelings that you feel them. And I get it. Some things are very traumatic and some things are very troubling. But like I said, if you can't do it alone, there are people who are licensed. There are people who have jobs to help you work through that. And you can and you will be a better man, but you have to do the work. And so I want to encourage you to do everything in your power to become the man that you want to be. I always kind of end it off with a quote. And this is a good quote right here. Strong minds aren't born, they're built. So allow yourself to do the work of building, maintaining, and renovating your mind. Okay. So with that being said, this is episode 10. Again, shout out to me. These weeks have been a little testy. I had my surgery, and man, ever since I stayed up for my surgery, it's just been a little hectic because my sleeping pattern has been off. But yeah, man, I'm excited to really be back, even though I wasn't really going that long. But this is exciting, and we really got some good topics coming up. And so I hope you guys are really tuned in, taking notes, and ready. And so with that being said, I am your host, Michael Jenkins, and this is the All In Podcast. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.